let me get the my thoughts out on this because it was good. This game was actually really, really good. Uh, like I said in the beginning, the graphics weren't really my thing. I'm not necessarily the biggest chibi art style fan, but there have been games like it before that I've tried out. Was pleasantly surprised. And then I saw the animations for like the spells. I saw the job system. I saw the combat, and I was like, okay. I mean, I gotta give this one a shot. This looks like it's right up my alley. And honestly, the graphics grew on me. It became kind of quite endearing. I still think some of like the designs look a little meh. Like I feel like the Dragoons could have looked way cooler in the end, but because of the chibi art style, it kind of forced them to draw it back a little. Um, yeah, Big Heads definitely threw me off too. But other than that, like it feels like a real entry in the Final Fantasy series from like back in the day. So like if they said this was Final Fantasy X and I played it right after playing Final Fantasy 9, 100% would not have questioned a single fucking thing, except for maybe the lack of iconic Final Fantasy monsters. But I mean, that's really the only thing that they were missing. They had the crystals, they had the job systems, they had the fighting, they had a lot of the terminology, some of the weapons, some of the names, locations, some of the way the boss fights worked. There's so much that was like directly, like specifically terminology from the Final Fantasy games, more so than just JRPG terms. So I was like, yeah, no, this is definitely like a close to my heart Final Fantasy sequel. Yeah, well, see, the thing is, Square's had like a bit of a renaissance in the last, 3-4 years. Almost all the stuff they put out lately has been really good. It might not be the best, like Valkyrie Elysium, but it is still really damn good. And this game, holy shit! Like honestly, it's like a solid 9 out of 10 for me. Like I can get behind that. I can get behind that rating. I'd say ultimately the chibi graphics and the art style that they chose to go with do hold it back a little bit. I feel like that's one thing. And then the biggest issue, however, not something that I feel should hit or affect its overall score, is the lack of quality of life features. So there's no system to track like completed job quests. You can only have 3 subquests like tracking at once. The map system is kind of wonky. Like, so you can't just bring up a full map of the area that you're in. It's either you bring up the artistic world map, which shows general locations, or while you're in the overworld, you can pop up the map for the overworld, but it's only like a couple different settings, and it's just the vicinity, not the whole area that you're in. So it's really hard to kind of all the players. Aw, that was me. They thanked me, guys. But yeah, so the map system was kind of wonky. But I'll just chalk all that up to quality of life features. That's really the only thing. Stream Final Fantasy. Oh fuck yes, I am. Oh god, hell yes. I'm one of the few people that doesn't truly like hate Call of Duty, Final Fantasy for the route that it's taken with this combat and stuff. I'll admit I do miss turn-based. I would prefer it if they took Dragon Quest XI's approach, or even Yakuza Like a Dragon, and went back to a turn-based combat system like one of those, where it's still turn-based, but it's more interactive and it's a lot more engaging for people who don't typically like turn-based. But this game, the turn-based combat was amazing. Like, oh my god, that was fucking great. Because it's just like so true to form what turn-based combat should be. There's weaknesses to exploit, there's difficulties that you can essentially impose upon yourself if you don't know what you're doing, and then strategies that you're not employing, then it'll make the game a lot harder in the end. But the freaking combat is just so addictive. Like, I found myself grinding multiple times throughout this game just because. I want to talk about Yakuza, but I'll get to that in a little bit. The like I said, I found myself grinding multiple times, the progression felt like good, but not too quick, not too slow. Like I was obviously going up in levels, I was getting stronger, but I never felt truly overpowered. As a matter of fact, the difficulty about this game is something a lot of people were holding back or holding against it. I actually really liked it because I felt like, assuming you were being thorough, the game was never too unbalanced. There was 2 points where I personally, doing everything I could, still came up short, but I had to grind for like, 3 or 4 levels, and I was usually fine. Like in both cases, I was fine. Granted, the boss fights were still hard, and that's actually a good thing because I feel like boss fights in games nowadays are usually way too easy up until like the end. That's why I like the Dark Souls series, because they're usually a lot harder and like more challenging overall throughout the whole thing. Whereas like a lot of games outside of that genre, the boss difficulties are relatively non-existent up until the very end of the games. This game, no, each boss was pretty tough, so you really felt like you were like earning your victories. Even when I got to level 99, the end game bosses for like the job system stuff, they were still kind of challenging. Like if I didn't know what I was doing, they could still wipe my ass pretty fucking quickly. So I really think that they nailed the battle system. They got a great job, or did a great job with the balancing of difficulty and strategies. They did a great job with the like progression of it. They did a great job with the versatility as well. I really like the job system. Oh my god, the way you can mix jobs, the abilities that come with them, so you can earn special passives that will apply even if you change your jobs. Oh my god, addicting is an understatement. But job system mixed with a combat it's a JRPG lover's dream. Not gonna lie, not gonna lie. um, the story overall was another thing people were like kind of holding against it. I loved it. I actually thought the story was really cool. It's very JRPG. I wouldn't say it's anything like super new, but what it was, what it did, what it had was all really detailed, really well done. The voice acting was honestly excellent. I usually switch to Japanese, but even though the, you know, accents were a little much at times, I still really appreciated it and thought it was really well done. I almost never skipped lines. Matter of fact, if I did, it was an accident. I always let the scenes play out. I let people, say the entire sentence, even though I'd already read it out. I was really into it. Now, it's personal bias. The interest in stories is always going to be subjective, but I try to look at stuff like that from like a very like systematic point of view for every single game across the board. I always kind of look at a baseline and apply my opinions to that. So, whereas I enjoyed the story a lot, the story was really detailed and really well like paced, well done, well acted. The events of the story weren't anything unheard of. There was a couple times where I was caught by surprise. It might either because of my own hubris, or I was just simply so immersed that I genuinely didn't see XYZ plot twist coming. There's one big one in particular that I definitely didn't see coming and was really stoked to see. I thought, I was like, that's fucking cool. Had no idea this was even a thing until now. It might have been more obvious to people who've played older Bravely games. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, that's about it. We got the combat, the graphics, the story, the technical performance on it was great. I played 90-ish hours of this on handheld, and the rest of it I did here on stream with you guys. Well, see, Kami, what I'm actually doing right now is my take on reviews. Since I don't have like a good editing program or know how to edit or an editor or any of those things, what I do is I beat the game, do it on stream. When the credits roll, I give my opinion, and I try to keep everything on topic as much as I can. And then I clip it and post it to my YouTube and go from there. I've actually got a couple reviews up there already. But yeah, I thank you for that. That means a lot. But yeah, that just to sum up my thoughts really quick, I think Bravely Default 2 was an amazing game. It's really gonna appeal to the older JRPG fans like myself from back in the day. Back on the PS1 especially, I think it's more akin to JRPGs of that era, and a love letter at that, because I feel like it took all the best bits of those games and mixed it with new shiny bells and whistles from more modern takes. You got the voice acting, you've got like the streamlined features, so it's not as like obsessively grindy or like thick padded artificially with all this extra like BS. um it's great. I actually will add one other little critique in here at the end of side quests. Albeit basic formula, a lot of them were pretty interesting. I think for these games, they've kind of got a mission to accomplish, so they can't do the most interesting and then like game-changing side quests, but they wrote a lot for the side quests. I think I found myself caring more about going to pick up this lady's knickknacks that she left all over the world than I ever have in any other game. It might just because I was like really into the game, and overall, like I said, I was immersed. But the side quests, they kind of follow a very basic formula. Nothing's really gonna stand out as like super like holy crap. But if you take the time to read the descriptions of the quests, listen to what the quest givers are telling you, you'll probably have a lot more fun doing the side quest. It won't feel as monotonous and like as like boring. But on a very basic fundamental level, they do boil down to fetch quests, go kill this monster, and go find this item. Like really, that's about it. So or go talk to this person. But that caveat aside, again, I'm not gonna fault them for having quests designed like that. Matter of fact, I'll even give them points for doing it so well. Granted, it's a more basic design. It worked. I didn't feel like it added enough to the game where I was entertained. I didn't have to stick to the main story if I didn't want to, but I also didn't feel like it was padded out too much with a bunch of bloated extra BS. So that's all well and good. That's the last thing I wanted to add. But to summarize it all up, finally, Bravely Default 2 is a great game. I gave it a solid 9 out of 10. Its shortcomings, whereas there are only a few, whereas like the graphics are a little bit, hard to get by at first, but once you do, I think you'll find a lot to appreciate, especially in the design of things like the animations and monsters. The story, albeit a basic formula, really well done, really well acted. Like you'll find yourself probably listening to the voice acting a lot like I did. The combat, holy crap, is that addictive. If you're a fan of the JRPG, like old school turn-based stuff like I am, you're gonna be doing a lot of the combat. B&D, you gotta play it. If you like Gwent, if you like Triple Triad, if you like Orlok or any other mini game in these bigger RPGs as of late, you will love B&D. Take the match or two, learn how the basics go, and you will just be playing that shit for hours. I know I did. I spent probably like 10-15 hours playing that little damn mini game just itself. There was a point where I was so into that mini game, I was like, fuck, I forgot I could actually go out and like do other things. Like I had to go talk to an NPC, but it was I had to go through a dungeon area with monsters, and I ran into a monster and I was like completely sidetracked, like, oh crap, totally forgot about this. And I think that's actually a really endearing quality in games. If I can get so lost in one aspect of it that I genuinely kind of forget about the other part of it for a sec, that's pretty crazy. That's a plus. But yeah, that's my final thoughts on Bravely Default 2.